These law books tell about they appointed the post of royal dragon feeder. Why do you need a royal dragon feeder? Let me guess. To feed the dragon. Yeah, right. A city in France was renamed Nerluc to honor the man who slew the dragon. The Indians used to carve pictures on the cliffs of Grand Canyon and all the canyons out there. One of the pictures they found shows a dinosaur. Now, how did the Indians know about dinosaurs to carve their pictures on the walls of the Grand Canyon? Well, maybe they hunted dinosaurs. In 1925, some scientists went down one of the canyons out west, just exploring that region, and here's what they wrote. The fact that some prehistoric man made a pictograph of a dinosaur on the walls of this canyon upsets completely all of our theories. Oh, you poor fella. They upset his theories. He said, facts are stubborn and immutable things. If theories do not square with the facts, the theories must change. The facts remain. I agree. That's the way science is supposed to work. You can have any theory you want, but if the facts don't square with your theory, throw your theory away. They would have thrown out evolution a long time ago, except they don't have a replacement theory other than, maybe creation. He goes on and he says, about a year ago, a photograph of a dinosaur was shown to a scientist of national repute who was then specializing in dinosaurs. He said, it's not a dinosaur, it's impossible, because we know dinosaurs were extinct 12 million years before man appeared on Earth. I want you to notice, he said dinosaurs went extinct 12 million years, right? Today they tell the kids 65 million years. I've been studying the inflation of the age of the Earth. Did you know in 1770 the textbooks say the Earth was 70,000 years old? Some of them do. You go to 1905 textbooks, they say the Earth is 2 billion years old. In 1969, the textbooks say the Earth is 3.5 billion years old. Today it says 4.6 billion. Did you know the Earth is getting older at the rate of 21 million years per year? That's 40 years per minute. Aging rapidly, folks. You go to Blanding, Utah, and you can see carvings of dinosaurs on the cliffs there. Here's a painting found in Australia by an Aboriginal showing a native running away from a long-necked, round-bodied animal, probably a dinosaur. I can't pronounce the name of this place in Canada, Misha something or other, but it looks like somebody drew a dinosaur on the cliff up there. The Indians talked about the great animal that lived in the lake out there. This guy says nobody's ever seen one. He doesn't know that. If nobody's ever seen one, why did they carve him on the cliffs? Down in Ica, Peru, they've got the driest desert in the world down there. The Spanish came across there and saw white lines across the desert. Nobody could figure out what those white lines were until they got airplanes and realized these are actually giant images. One of the images shows a spider that looks really strange. One of the legs is longer, sticking out to the side like that. And for years, everybody thought, well, these guys were just making up these stories. They're just, it's imagination. They just discovered here recently there's a little tiny spider that lives in the desert. It's extremely rare. Most folks have never seen it, never heard of it. It's only about 1/8 of an inch long, this spider. During mating season, that leg grows longer, and that's how they mate with that next spider. Then it goes back in. They had to have magnifying glasses to even know that. And here they are carving them huge images out in their desert. Either these guys had incredible eyesight or they knew about how to magnify things somehow. Get Dennis Swift's book on that. He's got a lot of good stuff on this images down in Nazca. But in 1571, the Spanish came across there and they found rocks with strange animals on them. They were carved in these rocks. They brought some back to the king of Spain and said, what are these? He said, I don't know. I've never seen an animal like that. Today they're called the Nazca burial stones. There are about 20 of these in America. We have 3 in our museum in Pensacola. The largest collection, I think, or second largest collection in America, 3. Some of them show brain surgery. Some of them show putting artificial limbs on people. One of them shows what appears to be a steam engine. These are from 2,000 years ago when these things were carved on there. About 500 of the stones show dinosaurs with people. Now, why would there be dinosaurs and people to carve together on these stones 2,000 years ago? Just about every known dinosaur is pictured on these things, including many unknown dinosaurs. We could spend hours talking. We'll talk more about the Ica stones on our college class 102. But this one shows, Dennis Swift has this one. He shows circles on the side of the dinosaur. Here's one from my museum. Shows a dinosaur holding a guy by the head. Here's another one I've got in our museum. Shows a dinosaur with had his head cut off. Apparently this guy has a knife in his hand. Cut the dinosaur's head off because the dinosaur killed his friend. We think that's what the story's telling. He's taking vengeance is what the Bible says. You know, vengeance is fine, saith the Lord. Something like that. I forget how it goes exactly, but that's close enough. Now, why would they put dinosaurs on these stones? And why put the circles on the side? Now, that's really interesting. You know, if you found dinosaur bones, that would not give you a clue what the skin looked like. Here's these stones from 2,000 years ago showing circles on the side. You know, they found fossilized dinosaur skin about 12 years ago, and it had circle patterns on it. The fossilized dinosaur skin shows circle patterns. It looks to me like they must have seen a live one to know how to do that. This one shows a guy cutting the head off of one. Here's a guy riding a dinosaur of some kind. They found pottery in one of the graves down there. It looked like a dinosaur, clear as a bell to anybody else. It could be a dinosaur on this pottery. The mummy in the grave was wrapped up in a blanket, and it had dinosaurs embroidered into the blanket. Why would they put dinosaurs on their blankets and on their pottery and carve them on cliff walls? You go to Acapulco, Mexico, and they found 56,000 ceramic figurines of dinosaurs as they dug to put in a basement at this one house. I said, wait a minute, what? Somebody stored a cache of dinosaurs. Thousands and thousands of them. We could spend many days talking about this, but lots more on that on seminar part 2 of our series. We cover more on dinosaurs and Ica stones. This guy says nobody's ever seen one. I'm sorry, he does not know that. An Italian fella, 400 years ago, was out walking his cows, taking care of his cows, and apparently a dinosaur scared his cows, and he hit the thing on the back of the neck and broke its neck with his walking stick. They had it stuffed and mounted for a museum display. Probably a Tanistropheus. Now, by the way, do you know why so many Italians are named Tony? Years ago, they were shipping a bunch of them to America, and they stamped on their forehead, to New York. Figured. Never mind. Okay. Many people think the Sutton artifact appears to be like a pterodactyl with its wings folded against its body. Another dinosaur. The Romans came across to America long before Columbus did. One of the Roman swords found in Arizona shows a dinosaur on it. I called the guy who's got the sword. I said, Tom, what do you think about this sword? He said, well, it has to be fake because we know man and dinosaurs did not live at the same time. Oh, do you know that or do you think that? And kids, if you ever get taught that Columbus was the first white man across the ocean, you are mistaken. They are mistaken, okay? Brendan the Navigator came over here in 500 AD. The Romans came back and forth. Apparently, King Solomon made his ships go back and forth across the ocean to America. There's lots of evidence of trade back and forth long before the Dark Ages shut all that stuff down, apparently. But during the recent age of sailing ships, after the Dark Ages was over, there were many reports during that 400-year span of sightings of sea monsters. Many, many legends of sea monsters exist. I have read so many stories. We can talk for hours on this. I won't, but I've read, I'm sure, 300 books just on the sea monster sightings from ancient ships' log books, stuff like that. It's incredible how many sightings of sea monsters are recorded in ancient books. Captain McKay said his crew saw a sea monster 60 feet long swim under their boat. The whaling ship Monongahela actually killed a 103-foot sea monster. They measured it. They were cutting it up. And another ship said, what are you guys doing? They said, we just killed a sea monster. Amazing story to read the whole story about the Monongahela, how the sea monster knocked the captain out of the small boat that went out there to harpoon it. Sailors had to rescue him. He was unconscious. This thing had a huge head. They cut the thing up, put the bones in the boat. The other ship bought the oil, sea serpent oil, and went back and told the story. He said, man, the Monongahela is coming in a few months, and they're going to show you guys the bones of a sea serpent. Well, the Monongahela sailed on and was never heard from again. Apparently, it sank in a storm. So I'm sure some more sailors got laughed at for claiming they saw sea monsters. One of the guys who later rescued the folks on the Titanic was Captain Ralston, Arthur Henry Ralston. In 1907, he saw off the coast of Ireland a sea monster. He sketched pictures of it. He said it was a sea serpent. Now, notice what this author of this book says. This book is called Titanic, Triumph and Tragedy. The author says, however imaginative the young officer may have been, excuse me, do you see any prejudice in that statement? In other words, he thinks he saw a sea monster, but I know better because, he was there and I wasn't. One German submarine commander said that when they sank a British ship during World War I, what appeared to be a giant sea monster came flying up out of the water. 60 feet long, 4 big flippers. There are stories of giant octopus pulling ships underwater. You say, come on now, octopus never get that big. Oh, they get pretty big. This one washed up on the beach in Florida, St. Augustine, about 100 years ago. The octopus was 200 feet across and weighed 5 tons. That's a big octopus. That's not the biggest one. A whale was killed near Seattle. Inside the whale's stomach was one arm to an octopus. All around the whale's body were 18-inch scars, circular scars, where something, either a giant octopus or squid, tried to drown the whale. See, whales love to eat octopus or squid, either one. And squid and octopus never stop growing. Now, if you're an animal that never stops growing, someday you won't have any more enemies. By the way, if you ever see a piece of puked up octopus floating around in the ocean, be sure to grab it. It's worth a fortune. Does anybody know what they make out of puked up octopus? Perfume. That is correct. That explains a few things, doesn't it, fellas? Hey, dear, you smell like a puked up octopus. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, and you can sleep on the couch for a month too, honey. Mm-hmm. Yeah. There are some awfully big squids out there. The Navy research vessel saw a squid wrestling with a giant whale one time in 1966. Giant squid. This one's in the Peabody Museum, a huge squid model over my head there. They said this one washed up on the beach in New Zealand. It was a baby giant squid. Full grown, it would have been 150 feet long. Some people say, now hold it, Mr. Hovind. If dinosaurs are mentioned in the Bible, and if they're mentioned all through history as living with man, are they mentioned in the Bible? I said, oh yeah, they're in there. And they said, I didn't see them in there. Well, you won't see the word dinosaur because that word was made up in 1841. King James was translated in 1611. You know, figure it out. They couldn't use that word. It didn't exist yet. But dinosaurs are in there. If you read the book of Job, Job has 42 chapters. In the first 2 chapters, it tells us Job was a perfect man. He feared God and hated evil. He had 7 sons and 3 daughters. And he had thousands of sheep and camels and oxen and asses. The guy was rich. And one day the messenger came and said, Job, I got some bad news. The oxen and asses got stolen and your servants were killed. Oh, and Job, by the way, the sheep all burned up. Thousands and thousands of sheep, all burned. Probably lightning or something, who knows. And Job, your camels got stolen. And by the way, Job, all 10 of your kids died. Job's having a bad day. Lost all of his animals. It's called the stock market crash. All 10 of his kids died. And Job said, the Lord gave, the Lord took away. Blessed be the name of the Lord. What kind of guy is this anyway? Everybody else would get mad at God, right? Job lost it all. Said, okay, God, it was yours to begin with. Thanks for letting me use it for a while. Then the devil gave him boils from the top of his head to the bottom of his feet. And if that wasn't bad enough, his wife turned against him. And Job said, hey, you foolish woman, shall we not receive good at the hand of God and not evil? Job didn't sin with his lips in all of this. But then his 4 friends came to torment him, to comfort him, I mean. One of those guys was the shortest man mentioned in the Bible, Bildad the Shuhite. It's pretty short, folks, okay? These 4 guys came and they talked to Job for 35 chapters. Most of the book of Job is these guys telling Job why everything went wrong. They had to be Baptists the way I got it figured. That's what I am. They said, Job, everything's going wrong, huh? Oh, we know why. You sinned. Now listen, folks, if something bad happens to somebody, you don't know why it happened. You should love them, pray for them, encourage them, and shut up. Don't go to the hospital when they get their gallstones taken out and say, hey, brother, these aren't gallstones. These are tithes and offerings. God's getting them out of you one way or another. Don't do that, okay? Let God take care of why everything's going on. He can handle that just fine. He doesn't need your help at all. So Job is sitting there scraping the pus out of the boil, sitting in the dust by the graves of his 10 kids, wondering, what's going on? He said, I wish the Almighty would answer me. Lord, why is this happening to me? And folks, you don't have to live on planet Earth very long before you're going to be wondering why some things happen to you. If you haven't got there yet, you just keep living. It'll happen. Job didn't know about Romans 8:28. It was coming, though. God said, we know that all things work together for good to them that love God, to them that are the called according to His purpose. Now this verse does not say everything that happens is good. It says everything will work together for good. It's a big difference. I'll show you. Has anybody here ever been hungry? Ever been hungry? Suppose you come to my house, you say, Brother Hovind, I'm hungry. I'll say, man, come on in, have a seat. I'll give you a cup of flour. Ugh. I got it. Lean back, open up. We're going to shove in a spoonful of salt. Now that'll help you. How about a spoonful of baking soda? Oh, wow, that stuff tastes good. You're probably getting kind of dry by now. So lean back, we're going to pour down a half a cup of Crisco. And chase it down with a cup of buttermilk. You say, that would taste terrible. How about if we mix them all together first and make biscuits? Hey, now you're talking. Did you know the individual ingredients for biscuits taste lousy? But they work together for biscuits, don't they? You know, God promised everything that happens to you will work together for good if you love God. Life is so simple. Keep your heart right with God. That'll be hard to do because the heart's deceitful and desperately wicked. But you just keep your heart right and everything that happens is good. Finally, though, in chapter 38, the Lord answered Job out of a whirlwind. Boy, if a tornado starts talking to me, I'm going to pay attention. And the Lord said, who is this that darkeneth counsel by words without knowledge? Hey, by the way, many false cults take a lot of their doctrine from the book of Job. One of Job's friends said something like, the dead die and they don't know anything. Well, that's one of Job's friends saying that. It's true that they said that, but what they said was not true. Be real careful getting a doctrine from the book of Job. Read the verse and then say, okay, that's interesting. Now, who said this? If it's one of Job's friends, it's true that they said it, but what they said may not be true. Just really be alert. Same thing in Ecclesiastes. That's the wisdom of man under the sun. It's not the wisdom of God above the sun. Okay? Just be real careful about getting your doctrine from those two books. Just take it very slow. God said, who's darkening counsel by words without knowledge? God said, gird up now thy loins like a man, for I will demand of thee, and answer thou me. Where wast thou when I laid the foundations of the earth? Man, I read that 34 years ago as a brand new Christian, and I thought, what a dumb question. Where were you when I built the earth? How many of you were here when God built the earth? Now, kids, this is going to be complicated. Okay, so listen carefully. Since you were not here when God built the earth, that means that God is older than you are. How many can figure this out with no help? Okay? Did it ever occur to you that God is also smarter than you are? Mm-hmm. Did it ever occur to you that God is stronger than you are? Mm-hmm. Did it ever occur to you that God is richer than you are? You say, Brother Hovind, everybody's richer than I are. God certainly is. Try this one. Did it ever occur to you that nothing ever occurred to God? Things occur to me all the time. I say, wow, I never thought of that before. Did you know that never happens to God? He has already thought of everything. He even knows and understands the imaginations of your thoughts and mine. This is a pretty cool verse. Not only does He know your thoughts, He knows the imaginations of the thoughts. That's a whole different level. You see, you can not only think about things, you can actually think about what you're thinking about. Think about that. The Bible says God knows your thoughts, and the Bible also says Jesus knows your thoughts. That's one of many verses that proves Jesus is God Almighty in the flesh. Not just a God like Jehovah's Witnesses say. He is the God in the flesh. God knows your thoughts. And get this, He loves you anyway. Wow, what a nice guy. God asked Job a question, and Job did not answer. So God asked him another one. Declare, if thou hast understanding. Who hath laid the measures thereof, if thou knowest? Question mark. Job doesn't answer. So God asked him another one. Hast thou entered into the springs of the sea? Did you know scientists didn't even know there were springs in the sea until 1977? God asked Job this question. Probably Job was written shortly after the flood, right about in this time, when people are still living to be 400 years old. Because Job had 10 grown kids all die and lived long enough to see his 4th generation from the new batch of kids that he got. Probably lived right about in here. No mention of the law hadn't been given yet. Most people think Job was written, probably the oldest book in the Bible, but not the first one in the Bible. God asked Job question after question. He said, where's the way where light dwelleth? That's a cool verse. Light doesn't stay in a place, it's in a way. But then it says, as for darkness, where's the place thereof? Hey, did you know darkness can't move? We're the children of light, right? The Bible says the gates of hell shall not prevail against. The gates don't move. People say, oh, Satan's attacking us. No, we're not on the offense. It's our problem, okay? We're letting him win. We're the children of light. We're supposed to be on the move, folks. Anyway, God said, by what way is the light parted, which scattereth east wind upon the earth? Now, wait a minute. Does the light cause the wind? It sure does. Ask any weatherman. The sunlight causes the ground to warm up and the air to warm up, and it causes it to expand, the air, and the wind is come from the sunlight. God said that 4,000 years ago. God said, canst thou send lightnings? Boy, it's a good thing I can't. How many of you can think of somebody that's lucky to be alive because you can't send the lightnings? I can think of several, yes, sir. God said, can you send the lightnings that they may go and say unto thee, here we are? Now, wait a minute. Is God telling Job electricity can be used to send a message? I believe he is, folks. That's how radio, TV, telephone, radar, microphones. Oh, yeah. God said that 4,000 years ago. God asked Job question after question after question, 84 questions by my count. Job never answered one. See, these are the kind of questions that don't need an answer. The question is designed to change the person's attitude. These are the same kind of questions you dads have to ask your kids. Say I have 3 kids, one of each. Kids get to a certain age and they start to get kind of cocky and they think they should make the rules around the house. The kid comes in one day and says, hey, Dad, listen, I believe I should be allowed to stay out till 4 in the morning with my friends. After all, I'm 10 now. Dad says, hold on just a minute, kid. You'd like to know why you can't stay out till 4 in the morning. Well, son, let me ask you a couple questions here. Who pays the electric bill around this house? Who's paying for the house? Who paid for that bed you slept on last night? Who paid for those clothes you're wearing, son? Who pays for the food you eat and eat and eat and eat and eat and eat and eat? Who paid for the hot water and soap you took a shower with about a month ago? Let's just get it straight right now, son. The Bible is very clear on this topic. He who payeth the bills maketh the rules. Second Opinions, chapter 4. You see, son, me, dad, you, kid. And if you're going to sleep under my roof and eat my food, you're going to do it my way. And when you want to do it your way, well, then go get your own roof to sleep under and get your own food to eat, and you can do it your way. That's the golden rule, son. He that hath the gold maketh the rules. Who do you think you are, kid? Where were you when we got this land and drove off to grizzly bears and walked uphill to school 40 miles in the snow, barefoot, both ways? I think God's asking Job these questions to change Job's attitude. We come to chapter 40, and God said, behold now Behemoth. Now what on earth is Behemoth? Some reference Bibles say it could be the elephant or hippopotamus. No, it cannot be either of those. I think Behemoth is the long-necked dinosaur, probably the Brachiosaurus. Actually, there are 13 different long-necked dinosaurs. The Brachiosaur, the Cetosaur, the Mamenchosaur, the Seismosaur, the Supersaur, the Apatosaur, the Blondosaur. You just have to talk to her kind of slow, okay? You'd be amazed how much hate mail I get from just that statement. I say, look, I'm blonde, my sister's blonde, my mother's blonde, my daughter's blonde, okay? I like blondes, and I like making fun of them too, okay? So back off. If you don't like it, edit this part of the tape out, all right? He says, behold now Behemoth eats grass as an ox. Some people say, hey, elephants eat grass, and my Bible says elephant. A lot of animals eat grass, okay? Look at the next verse. His strength is in his loins, his force is in the navel of his belly. The biggest part on him is his belly. They say elephants have a big belly. Yep, you're right. Hippos have a big belly. Brachiosaurus has a big belly. He has a big belly. Next verse says, he moveth his tail like a cedar. Wait a minute. His tail's like a cedar tree? Have you ever seen an elephant's tail? Not like a cedar tree. Mm-hmm. Have you ever seen a hippo tail? Not like a cedar tree. You know, before they put those comments at the bottom of the Bible, they really should be required to read the passage at least once. You know, before they comment on it. It's not an elephant hippo, hello. It's not one of those. Anyway, the Bible says, his bones are as strong pieces of brass. His bones are like bars of iron. He had big bones. And they did. I've got one here on the table. This is a copy of a toe bone from a brachiosaur. Now, kids, this is going to be complicated, so listen carefully. The reason he had such big toe bones is because he had big toes. And he had those big toes because he had a big foot. Matter of fact, their foot was big enough to take a bath in, the footprint, if you're a little kid. Pictures on the back of the book from Dinosaur Valley State Park, right here, if you want to come by and take a look at that. They had that big foot because he had a big leg to hold up. His front leg is 20 feet tall. The biggest dinosaur found so far was found in Oklahoma, 60 feet to the top of the head. They say it'll take them 20 years to dig all the bones out of the ground because it is a government project. They say when it was alive, it might have weighed 100 tons. 100 tons is equal to 14 school buses put together. That means if he was to come by and step on you, you would be deeply impressed by him. You would be road pizza. By the way, speaking of government projects, I want to show you folks my invention that's going to make me the richest man on planet Earth. I'm going to save so much money for the highway department, construction crews, and utility companies, and the military. And all I want is 10% of the savings. I'll be the richest man on planet Earth. I have invented a shovel that will stand up by itself. You won't need to pay those guys to lean on it anymore. You just watch when you drive by a construction crew. You'll see what I'm talking about. Everyone can use one of these inventions. Next verse says, he's the chief of the ways of God. He's the chief. That's the Hebrew word for chief, the reshith. He's the biggest animal God ever made. Well, that would not be the elephant hippopotamus. It'd be the brachiosaurus. And you know what kind of fits the pattern for the way the devil works? Whenever God makes things, the devil tries to destroy them. God invented beautiful things. God invented music. God loves music. And Satan has come along with some ungodly music you shouldn't listen to. Somebody asked me one time, and they said, Brother Hovind, do you know what you get if you play country music backwards? I said, no. They said, you get your hound dog, your wife, and your pickup, all back. Oh, yeah, backmasking. I heard about that stuff. And God invented marriage and the family and sex. God made them male and female, and He understands it pretty good, and He put some rules down. Boys, don't touch the girls till you're married to them. Now, if you don't want to touch them, then stay away from me. Okay, I saw your kind out west. But God wants you to have a wonderful life. And He said the adulteress will hunt for the precious life. These movie stars getting married again every 6 months don't have a clue what the precious life is all about. Now, kids, listen carefully. Here's what you got to do. It doesn't matter what your friends are doing. The Bible teaches you're to keep yourself pure, and your wife or husband keep pure till you both walk down the aisle, and the preacher says, wilt thou, and you wilt, and then you stick with that one for the rest of your life. That's the precious life right there. God knows what He's talking about. The Bible says God created all the great creatures. God made the dinosaurs. And Satan said, you know, there has to be some way to use dinosaurs against God. But he couldn't fool Adam, not with dinosaurs. Imagine the devil walking up to Adam and saying, hey, Adam, did you know dinosaurs lived millions of years ago? Adam would say, are you dumb or what? There's one in the backyard eating off the cherry tree right now. The devil couldn't fool Noah. He fed him every day. But for the next 4,000 years, they became pretty rare. Many species went totally extinct. Gone. And then in 1809, they found the bones and put one together. And the devil was there that day. Said, wow, here we go, folks. My chance, finally, after 4,000 years. Satan said, you know, these critters have always lived with man. I know that, and God knows that, but these people don't know that. So the devil said, I think I'm going to tell everybody they lived millions of years ago. And if they believe it, it'll make them doubt the Bible. And boy, has it worked good. You know, for the last 200 years, kids have been going to kindergarten and getting a book like this. I can read about dinosaurs. Would anybody like to just take a wild guess at what the first sentence in the book says? Millions of years ago. Yeah, sure enough. So many books in our libraries teach this stuff. Millions of years ago. How many kids are being taught that in your town at your expense? I go to museums all the time. Just makes my blood boil, seeing all these beautiful, incredible museums, fancy displays, loads of money, and the wrong message. Kids are being brainwashed. That's why we started our own. And we need lots of creation museums around the country, hundreds of them. You folks need one up here. Somebody start one. Next verse says, He lieth under the shady trees in the covert of the reed and fens. The word fens means the swamp. Well, the biggest swamp in the world is in the middle of Africa, right there. Most Americans don't know how big Africa is. There's what America looks like next to Africa. That swamp is gigantic. Bigger than the whole state of, same size as the whole state of Illinois. Gigantic swamp. There have been reports of dinosaurs in that swamp in the last 200 years. There could be a few dinosaurs still alive. I don't think there's very many. I don't think they're very big ones, but I think there's some still alive, folks. We cover lots more on that in the next session. But basically, God made dinosaurs with Adam and Eve. They were big lizards before the flood. Noah took them on the ark. People began killing them. There are very, very few left today, but there might be a few still around. But don't let anybody tell you they lived millions of years ago. That is just plain baloney. We'll cover dinosaurs still alive in the next session after the break. Thank you.
All right, we will take a few minutes to take a break and hope you'll join us for the morning service. God bless you.